Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Crime Centric. This being a show where we talk about TV shows that are crime dramas. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about Warrior Season 2, Episode 7. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. This is the episode of kind of crap hits the fan, essentially, on every mark. Obviously, first and foremost, let's start up in the aftermath of last episode. We're picking up with Father June confronting everyone about what they did, but young June stands up to him and is like, no, I'm doing what's best for the Tong. I'm putting the Tong first. You are letting Mylene have her way, and you do that, we're going to be the ones that suffer. And it's like, right, he's going to get rid of his brand. And he's like, it's okay. And like, the fact of the matter is, this tattoo isn't the Hop way. It isn't going to change who I am. I'm Tong through and through. I'm Hopway through and through. I don't need some silly symbol branded on me to prove that. So when the time came that they were standing up to him, Assam's like, yo, here's the money. We weren't stealing from you. We have to make a difference. We have to change things, because if we don't, Mylene's going to swallow up the market, because they're obviously offering opium at a lower cost and pricing, and them and the fungi will take control of things in like a year. Obviously, Father June and a lot of characters kind of see Assam, like Assam's not like actively being like, no, I'm the one running things, but he is. He's the one that nudges everything, like like he has his personal motivations of, I want to take down Mylene, I want to make her hurt, I want to make her suffer, and he's been warned time and time again by Atoy and by Chow about doing this, that he's the one that set all this motion, father versus son. Would it have ever come to this? Who knows? Because even Assam was like, do you think your father would have ever given you the throne? He's like, no, who knows? He's like, but at the end of the day, I just wanted my dad to respect me and look at me as his true successor. And like, but I mean, no greater example of true successor by just taking the throne, because Father June was like, yo, kill all of them, but none of the people did, because what Assam said really resonated with them. And it's like, right, we got to fall in line under young June. And it's like, right, are you even ready for this? And he's like, I hope so, you know? And even to the point, Father June's like, right, you got to kill me. That's the only way, because it will show weakness if you're unwilling to do that. But it's like, no, at the end of the day, you're my dad. I'm also smart enough to know, truth be told, this way, young June justified it, rightfully so, if you have the experience and the knowledge to help lead the Hopway, like, give me, like, I need your counsel. But it's also, hey, I don't want to kill you because you are my dad. You are the only family I have left, so I'm not really about to burn that bridge. So his dad's like, yo, if you want to, just give me the knife and I'll take care of it if you're too much of a punk to do it. But even he's like, yo, Assam, he kind of pushed you to do exactly what he wanted. And even later on, it's like, yo, I'm your right-hand man. I follow you because you're the boss. And young June was kind of like, doesn't always feel that way. And Assam's like, what? He was like, nothing. It's like, even young June's picking up on it, because it hasn't completely, like, he's not, like, yes, he's young and ignorant, but he's not completely stupid. He is listening to what other people say, because now that people have taken that time, like, now that the adrenaline's run off, and now he's looking back in retrospect, it's like, yeah, Assam's kind of been the one to push stuff, because he's like, hey, getting stuff from like Happy Jack, that was on you, that was your accomplishment. He's like, yeah, but you're the one that nudged away. He's like, yo, man, I'm just a right-hand guy serving the current boss. That's like, you've pushed this more so than anyone. Once again, young June doesn't know at the heart of it Assam's motivations. To be fair, it's like, it's the same as young June's, but his are even more, like, they both want to take down Mylene for different reasons. It's like, right, as the Hopway, I want to take down the Long Z. I want to show our dominance at, like, us as the top Tong around, whereas Assam's more personal, like, I want to make my sister suffer for ordering my death. You know, despite everything I've done to try and be here for her, I'm trying to make up for the past. I even saved her life from Bolo, but that meant nothing. You still kind of gave the go-ahead for Lee Young to kill me. So, once again, it's got a major chip on his shoulder. Plus, all the stuff with Vega last episode, I think, really resonates, because it's like, right, what are you coming back for? Yeah, the only reason why he's coming back is for his revenge and for all of this. He's going to push young June to kind of, like, fight the Long Z and Mylene, but it's like, you know, because he has nothing else. Like, this is the only home he has now, and for him, it's like, I'm so dead set on my revenge, which parallels with, because at the very least, Vega circumstances, her circumstances were more than revenge. It was about getting back her home. But for Assam, it's like, it's not that altruistic. It's just purely revenge. But he saw how Vega's story. So I think that has affected him to his core. Once again, I brought this up last episode. Might be a bottle episode, might be a quote unquote filler episode. But I think that is going to be important characterization that will play a role in this, because Assam might be blinded by his rage right now, but he can't help but see parallels between Vega's circumstances, doing all she could to save her sister, get back her home. Where it's like, why did he come to this land in the first place? Was for his sister, and now he's at war with his sister. Where it's like, right, Marisol had to have her sister die in her arms, and it's like, how far are you willing to go for your revenge, your anger, that's consumed you? Awesome. That's going to be the interesting development. He later on with the Chow was like, oh yeah, like Young Jun is stockpiling weapons. At first I was like, did Young Jun actually say that, or was that you making those moves unilaterally? It doesn't seem, not unless it comes up later on, but for now it seems like maybe Young Jun did order that, but I'm kind of skeptical, being like, that sounds like that might have been just like, Assam making that decision, because he's like, no, we're not going to war right now, but we're just stockpiling just in case. It feels like Assam might have nudged him that direction. To be fair, Young Jun is someone that's a lot more willing to go to a fight than his dad is. So it definitely feels like it could be a Young Jun thing, but it definitely isn't too out of the realm, the possibility to believe Assam kind of whispered in his ear, kind of nudging him in this direction. But Chow talks about, like, right, what Chinatown is. It's like, he's not going to kind of, like, get so caught up in, like, right, the changing of, like, the leadership, because he's like, Chinatown's not the same. Like, yes, this was kind of such a small place before, but now it's become a city within a city. It used to be such a little thing, but so much over the years has changed, and even kind of witnessing everything with this and Zing, everything can kind of change in the snap of a finger. And I even love, he kind of made this, he quoted this phrase, and I love Assam being like, no, that sounds like that was Sang Soo who said that. He was like, yes, but my dad also said it too, about like, you'll sit by a river, you'll watch your bodies of your enemies float by. It's like, right, I recognize what you're trying to do, Assam, and it might benefit someone like you to kind of work in the shadows. And it's kind of like, right, I see what you're trying to do here, Chow. The fact of the matter is, I'm kind of comfortable where I am. Here you are talking again, but it's like, no, like, to kind of do what you want to do and kind of run things the way you want. You might not want to be in allegiance to the Tong itself, because he's never really had any full allegiances to the Tong. He's always just had allegiances to people. Like, the only person in the Tong he's ever really had full allegiances to, I think Hong is amongst those people now, but before that was Young Jun. He's always resonated with Young Jun, especially with how messed up his relationship with Mai Ling. He does find a friend and brother in Young Jun. We definitely know Young Jun feels that way, but I do feel like it's genuine with Assam, but sadly, that is kind of like muddied because he is using Young Jun at the end of the day. So that kind of muddies any brotherhood and friendship that they might have, because Young Jun always stuck up for Assam, being like, yo, Assam's not like that. And what does Father Jun says? He's like, I hope you're right. So, but Chow's like, yeah, you're going to potentially need a friend in the shadows. You never know how useful that might be. So Chow's like, I let Young Jun know I'm always going to be at his service and yours. It's like, there you go, Chow, always playing the field. On the opposite side of things, let's tackle the Long Z a little bit. Obviously, there's still some issues between Li Yong and Mai Ling, because, okay, so the Feng Hai leadership, without Zing, it's like, okay, so what's going to happen here? 3 people are going to fight for the leadership role. It's like, yeah, they might end up dying in the process. But for Leong, it's like, we can use this to our advantage. She's like, I hope so, because we literally have no other option, because you've heavily weakened us by removing Zing from the board. It's like, at least he kind of ran a tight ship. It's like, yeah, but he was too much of an X factor. Dude was home. He was crazy. You didn't want the attention that murdering a police officer and his entire family, or at least his family, would have brought. Granted, Bill put himself in that situation, but it's like, you've also put yourself in that situation siding with the phone guy, specifically Zing. Which, to be fair, he was so gung-ho to kill, like, his leadership, But to be fair, I'm sure that's also the thing of like my link connected with that, considering like, right, she killed Long Z, which like they're all kind of cut from the same cloth to some extent, because it's like, even Atoy said, right, you're a lot more like your sister than you ever want to admit. She killed Long Z. And what does he do? Absam manipulated young Jun and taken the throne from his father, and Zing took advantage and took over the fungi. So it's like they're all kind of, varying degrees of being cut from the same cloth. I think Mai Ling has her psychopathic tendencies, but she's not nearly the psychopath Zing is, but she's kind of on her way there. And Assam, like the good-natured person that he is, the good in him hasn't fully whittled out. It's still there. Because some pieces of Zhao Jing is still inside of Mai Ling, so that side of her isn't completely dead. And some parts of Assam, the good inside of him is still there too, and probably in a much larger capacity than Zhao Jing is within Mai Ling. So, either way, from her former Pinkerton, now investigator dude, was it Nicholas? She got some dirt about. Buckley. We found out he had a wife. But when he went to war, he came back a different person. They stayed together a few more years, but then he left. She's married and has kids. And we never got to find out what the photo was, but whatever it is, it's a big enough thing that Nicholas is like, yo, you know how much that's worth. And she's happy about it. Seems like she's not letting Leong know. To be fair, Leong still is unaware about the Buckley angle of it. So for her, this is her reining everything in. Like, just when she feels like she's got an ace against Buckley, she does the whole, kind of went a little basic instinct there with Li Yong, and it's like, right, do you either trust me or you don't? She kept choking, so we saw him kind of passing out. I was like, does that technically count as? I would assume that would count as erotic asphyxiation. Erotic asphyxiation. I cannot say that word. I cannot say those words. I would assume that still counts as that. Like I said, very I guess, I don't know, maybe a little 50 Shades of Grey, but a definitely very basic instinct. At least, yeah. So, probably very basic instinct and very basic instinct 2. Probably more so 2 than 1, if I remember those movies correctly. Either way. It's just about Mai Ling kind of reining everything back. And it's like, oh yeah, I'm mad at you, but it's kind of like, we're kind of hate fucking a little bit. But I think it's just also like, once again, it's kind of a dominance thing, because she spent so much of her life not having control that it's just like, when people kind of like go from like out of her control, she reins them back in. Especially Leong, because she's always been able to, and it's just him kind of straying from her. It's like, no, I gotta put you in this literal leash and like choke you into submission, essentially. So that's interesting. And speaking of Zing, he did go on trial, and they was immediately found guilty. He didn't put up much defense. I mean, granted, I would assume he doesn't speak. No, he does speak English. Yeah, he speaks English. So, but it's kind of like, yeah, it's a moot point. You caught me with the sword. He sees what Bill's game in. It's like, all right, I see you for what you're doing, Bill. But you're like, oh, yeah, if I get an opportunity, Bill, you're fucked. And it's like, I don't think Zing's going to go down. Especially, because I knew, later on when Atoy shows up with her sword, I'm like, that's going to complicate things. Because, well, you already know that Chow set this all up, so what are you going to do? But it's like, yeah, there's enough people wanting to kind of keep up this farce that Zing is the swordman. To be fair, he's a sociopath that needed to be removed from the board for multiple reasons. Leong didn't want him around, Chow didn't want him around, and Bill sure as hell didn't need or want him around. So with a trio threat of that, once again, Bill wasn't even aware of the Leong of it all, but it's like, right, with those three gunning for you to remove you from the equation, it's going to happen, but it's like, he's probably still going to be in play. We'll see. He is getting sentenced to death, so if he's able to manage to escape, or because of the swordsman stuff, I don't know if that would change anything, because they'll probably be like, yeah, it's just a copycat, another Chinese person, because the only person that was, Lee's the only one that ever said, hey, it's one person. He probably would stick with the same thing based on how the episode plays out. But either way, Bill and his people are doing everything they can to cover up, because it's like, right, we were announced to the city, we got so much praise, got Leary off his bat by being, because Leary's like, I heard word that you were working for them. He's like, what? No, got close enough to him so I can bust him. As you can see, he's like, all right, I'll let you be on your way. Leary doesn't fully buy that because it's like, well, he already met the man who used to work for, and in fact, not only met him, he beat the ever living shit out of the man, Damon, who used to work for the Feng Hai. So it's like, maybe you got filled into that position because out of anyone, Leary knows about, Bill and his terrible gambling addiction. So we'll see how that kind of plays out. But yeah, they're covering up the crime scene because it's like, yeah, we don't want, because even if they accept, like, hey, the government and police are like, oh, even if we put it out there like, oh, it's another swordsman, the public's not going to look at it like that way because it's like, whether or not it's like, oh, you caught them, it's still the kind of like from Leary's perspective, well, you locked up one, there's 25,000 left to go. That's, so. Speaking of Leary, he was around Buckley while Mayor Blake was kind of, running his mouth doing his thing. And Buckley is kind of looking to Leary. Now, I don't know if it's just, hey, I'm trying to incite stuff in Chinatown. And to be fair, it is important for the Irish vote. And if you have Leary, who has a lot of power and sway over the Irish vote, like, you probably want to set him up to be a more, because the mayor is so flip-floppy in the public's eye that it's like, yeah, they're with him for now, but it's too obvious he's playing the angle. Larry's always been who he is, so he'll straight up have the Irish vote, which means he'll end up probably swaying a lot of Americans that typically flow his way. The only people who will be against him are the industrialists who pay for Chinese labor because it's cheaper. And in fact, it's kind of like helped build a large chunk of this country by using that labor. And sadly, a lot of this country was built on like extremely cheap labor, indentured slavery, and indentured servitude across the board. So, but Leary doesn't view himself as a politician because he hates politicians, because he knows, like, right, yeah, you might have more power in that degree, but it's like you have to get in the muck, and it's like, right, he'd rather solve things with his fist. That's just because he's a simple man in that regard. Of like, why complicate things when I can beat the ever living shit out of people to get what I want? Which obviously, Sophie was kind of avoiding him post the whole, right, blowing up her and Penny's father's business, the steel factory. So it's like, right, I wasn't expecting you to be here, and even she wasn't, but she kind of has nowhere else to go because she's never seen her sister so broken. So when Leary brings up what Buckley says, she's like, go for it, because you'll be able to sway the Irish vote. Plus, you'll be able to do so much more to help people. That way, also, no one gets hurt. It's like, she feels guilt over what she did, because it's a whole conversation about regrets. And for him, it's like, well, how I deal with regrets is I drink, But she's like, what if that's not enough? Like, can you really go on like that forever? Like, finding another solution, using your power and position, your sway with the Irish vote could help you in the politician route. But it's like, right, she kind of sees Buckley for who he is, sees the mayor for who he is, sees, obviously, the, I always forget, was it governor or senator? I think it's, home dude's the senator of California. What they all want, and they don't obviously have the American people, and from Larry's perspective, don't have the Irish people or the American people's best interest at heart. And so he could be the ones that shake stuff up, but you might end up falling into the trappings of, yeah, you might come into it wanting to do things differently, but you get caught up in the minutia of what is this system that's been this way for a while, and you just can't get out of the muck. Ultimately, that ties into everything with Penelope, who's struggling to keep the business, to the point that she knows she can't get any help from Samuel, so she goes to Merriweather to try and get him to buy. But I think the point was, I think she will be like giving him the Chinese workforce to work, like, so it's like she's kind of buying into his steel factory of like, right, I will kind of help get you the Chinese labor, but the thing is, you're going to have to kind of help cover not only your business, but also my business. That way, like, we're kind of in this together. I kind of bring forth my money and my my workforce along with yours, and we can kind of compensate for neither one of us being able to fully put out our normal normal output or something. Like, that's my understanding. I'm probably like completely misunderstanding like how that operates, but yeah, Samuel's not too keen about hearing that, because it's like, okay, here's that wife of mine going behind my back again. So many things converging, especially at the end of the episode in that capacity, where Penelope, she doesn't know that Sophie was responsible for the factory, but it's still a thing of, hey, this man burned down my factory and you're having a relationship with him. She probably puts two and two together and be like, you probably have something to do with the factory, or at the very least, you know what this man has done. You know he's been at odds with us and our dad, and you're still dating him regardless. So there's that. I wasn't sure who was going to, because at one point they're making out at the bar, and I was like, we saw the camera angle, and I was like, oh, is someone watching? I was like, is it going to be Sophie or maybe Jacob? And maybe he's going to report back to Penelope. I was like, no, but she caught them with her own eyes. Not unless Jacob did kind of give her a heads up, but I doubt it. It probably just like, no, that scene at the end where she saw them together is probably all she needed. So it's like, right, you get out. Samuel comes on, he's drunk. He's pissed about everything, and he confronts her, and it's like, right, you won't help me, so I had to do what I had to survive. And for him, it's like, I have this governorship. I'm running, like, trying to, like, by helping out the senator, I'm putting myself in a position as governor, and we could do so much more. Like, you're jeopardizing my position and the power that would be at your disposal being my wife. But she's like, I had no idea what you were planning. He's like, why should I run it by you? You're my wife. I don't have to tell you everything I'm planning. It's like, yeah, but you're supposed to be a team. But for him, it's like, no, you're a means to an end. You're eye candy. You're the person that gets to smile and be by my side, and I get to have sex with you when I want to. You know, that's kind of his perspective on it. So he hits Penelope, but Penelope doesn't slap him back. She balls up her fist and punches him in the face. But that leads to a whole struggle. Sophie gets hurt in the process. He's about to kill her. I was like, come on, someone step in. And I wasn't sure. I was like, is it going to be Sophie who hurts him? I was like, no, it looks like she's about to pass out. It looks like he's about to straight up murder her. I was like, this ain't what's about to happen. And then he gets hit in the head. I was like, was it Leary? Like, was it Sophie? Who was it? Didn't even cross my mind that it was going to be Jacob. Now that opens up a whole world of possibility though. Well, how do you solve this? Okay, so I think Sophie's going to be okay. And so is Penelope. So either you're going to fake this by putting on someone else. Either you're going to be like, okay, there was a break-in and he died. Or you're just going to cover up his death and make it so he doesn't make any public appearances. That's going to be hard considering, like, well, he's the mayor. He's a very public figure. So that's complicated. Two, Buckley needs him to he's a means to an end. So it helps that, so he's going to be constantly asking for the mayor. So, but my question is, who are they going to go to? Because both sisters are tied to someone in the more gray area to criminal side of things. Sophie's connected to Leary. So if they exclude the fact is that Jacob's the one that did it, that maybe one of them did it, maybe Leary might be more inclined to help maybe dispose of the body because it's like, hey, I like Sophie and I care about her. Or will Penny go to Assam to help with this because it's like, right, things are complicated, but it's like, right, you literally are tied to someone who can make something like this disappear because he is, might even go to Chow for help with this, as might be kind of the move that Assam ends up playing. So that's the routes they could take. So I'm not even 100% sure which one seems more likely. It feels like it could go either way just because of Sophie and Penelope's connection to someone on the more, like I said, more criminal side of things, respectively. So that's definitely going to be interesting. I don't think it ever really... Well, I feel like Buckley kind of was looking almost like he was ready to replace Mayor Blake. He was ready. It felt like he was going to bump off Samuel if he got the opportunity and put Leary in his place, because it's like, right, you're just kind of like your flip floppiness is not doing you well, and you're too much of a big blowhard to like do what we need you to. Like, you're so caught up in yourself that you can't see the bigger picture and recognizing yourself as you're just a pawn in this game, but you think you're bigger above your station because you're married. It's like, you are just a cog in this machine of what we're up to. So we shall see how that plays out. I'd actually forgotten about it because obviously it's been a little while since I'd seen it. It's been a couple days since I saw episode 4, so I completely forgot about the Nelly and Toy of it all. And we got some backstory on Atoy, some questions I had for a while now have finally gotten answered. Her husband was a merchant and he had dealings here in America, but when they were on their way here, he was killed in front of her, and basically she knew like all the men here are going to try and rape me. So the captain, it's like, right, he saved me by making me his concubine. And by doing that, yes, I have to deal with him, but at the very least, that's better than every other man, like, taken from me, doing what they want with me. So I'd wonder, because I figured, like, she probably was in a similar circumstance before she ended up leading her brothel the way she does. I figured maybe she was in that same boat as everyone else. So I'm sure, like, more direct parallels would probably be comparing her to Penelope's circumstances. Not a one-to-one, but there's some commonality there. She's like, yeah, they dumped my husband's boat off and my husband had dealings and owned stuff here, but because there was no husband, it's like, it's one thing. It's like, right, he's a man, you're a woman, you're a Chinese woman at that, so that cuts even deeper. But it's like, you're a woman, so I don't know. I'm assuming her husband was Chinese as well, but I mean, he could have, like, they never made a point of it. For him to have anything, like them letting him have anything, makes me go, he might not have been. I mean, he was a businessman, but it's just like, because even Chow obviously had to scrape by to get what he got. So I don't know if that's why I almost feel like her husband might have been like white or something, but maybe he wasn't. Kind of a moot point. He's dead. Everything they had is taken regardless. So she had to scrounge and fight to get to where she is. So kind of giving us that backstory and understanding of, where Atoy came from and what she's been through, and kind of figured it had to be, especially the way she treats her girls and the way, once again, she was saying like, I'm not someone that can be sold, because she'd probably been in a situation where it wasn't like a transaction. It wasn't a full-on monetary transaction necessarily, but it was still a transaction. So she's been on that other side of things too. So, but either way, she lets Nelly in on like, hey, I'm working with this partner, but that partner's a little skittish. I've got this amount of land. I'd heard that term or phrase, like, I forgot what she called it. It's a measurement of how much land she has. It's something with like an H or whatever. I'd heard that somewhere else recently. It's a unit of measurement I've never known, which you would think well, to be fair, I'm not the farmhand I should be, but it's like, farming is in my family. So I should know that, but I've never heard that term my entire life. Maybe it's like a very old school term, but I watched a video where like someone from an African village referenced that. So maybe it's like a very like old school thing that only some places still use that unit of measurement. Because all I ever hear, like, it breaking, I don't know if it's like, maybe it's supposed to be the lengthier word for acres, because maybe acres is the abbreviated version of a bigger word, or maybe this word at acres, like it's just like a unit of measurement to measure land, is like, it's the one above acres. Like I said, it's something with an H. I can't think of it off the top of my head. Moot point. But she tells Nelly about her plan, and she wants to kind of end things with her partnership with Patterson, because I can't trust you anymore. So she goes to end things, but the problem is Patterson's taken a lot of that capital and used that to leverage other stuff. So she pulls out all of what she's owed. He's going to have to like screw up whatever deals he has in the making to make her better, and that makes it all fall through, and that's going to all land on him. Because, like, he doesn't have what he needs to make her whole yet. And so to pull everything out that he had, because it's all jumbled up with other loans. And it's like, oh, I use this as kind of collateral to set up this other loan situation. So if I make you whole, I give you everything that you're own and signing off to you, I'm going to be ruined because I won't have the capital and everything necessary, the collateral and everything to replace what I'm taking out to give to you. So he does go to this particular priest, which are like, I was like, is he going to try and get Atoy killed? Because it's a thing of, oh, do you, he's like, you can trust me. She's like, I do. Do you? And it's like, no, after you kill those businessmen, maybe before he would have been more receptive to it, but maybe that's also why he's so skittish. It's because he knew, like, right, if she ever finds out like what I'm doing with the properties and stuff like that, how I'm utilizing it, without her permission, kind of using it on my own because it is all in his name. So I think he's about to severely screw over Atoy and sell her out. I get the feeling like that seems like he's going to point them in Atoy's direction and they're going to try and kill her. But like, hey, she kills him first. She's going to come after you, Patterson, and have every right to. So she was right to kind of like get rid of that partnership. But it's like, I don't know. It's like, because she made that decision so quickly, like maybe if that had stretched out a little bit more, to be fair, he kept his mouth shut up until now. But it's like now it's like, so much more is on the line for him because he's going to, like, not only will he lose his name and his reputation has been building up, so he'd rather kind of take his chance against Atoy than rather with Atoy, because she's like, right, like we're still on, like we've always been good to each other as partners. Let's end this positively. Yeah, he ain't about that. So he's making his moves, and we'll see how that ultimately blows up in his face, because I know like Atoy's definitely got to kill him by the end of this season. Because it's just going to end up going that far, and it's just, yeah, it's not going to go the way he hopes it will. Like I said, it feels like they're setting up like, he's hiring his own little hit squad that go after Atoy. So, speaking of which, her and Lai went to one of the brothels and freed all the Chinese women there. Dude. Lai went hard into pain against one particular dude. Metal pipe in his mouth, hit his jaw up, and shattered his teeth. I thought when she was pinning him against his cell, I thought she was going to make a moment of like, hey, you all get your pieces too. But she was kind of making an example of him in front of everybody, stabbing him in the leg and like being absolutely brutal to the point, Alto was like, yo, like end it. Don't extend it. We're not here for that. I think for Atoy, it's like, right, I made you into this because it was my goal to do this, but now I know I've seen that there's another way because of Nelly, and I've seen what I've kind of turned you into. You were this quiet girl, like who knows who you were before I made you into the weapon that you are. At least she already had the basics there, but Atoy like refined her skills and made her the deadly warrior that she is. But it's like, I don't want you to be that way anymore. I want you to be able to live your life. So left all those women and Lie with her. But understandably for Lie, it's like Atoy's become like, I don't know if she views her as like a mom or a big sister, but it's like, you're my mentor, you gave me purpose, you made sure no one ever touched me, you made me stronger, that now why would I ever want to leave your side? You made me stronger. For Atoy, it's like maybe she will come to regret that in the long run, of like there'll probably be consequences for leaving Lie behind, because you thought she'd be safe there with everyone else, but with everything going on with Patterson and stuff, I don't think that's going to be the case. I think, and sadly, I think that's going to tie into, like I brought up previously, I think it's going to tie into like an episode title or something I saw on YouTube that I was like, oh, I think that, like, I figured whatever it was going to connect to Lie in some regards and Toy's response. I think I'm beating around the bush. I think something's going to happen to Lie. Maybe it's going to happen to Lie and all those women. Maybe Nelly as well. But I think that's all going to follow them back to there. And maybe Lie is going to end up dying. And Atoy's going to go full, like, fuck it. Goes on a killing spree, getting her revenge type of situation. So, based on, once again, something I read in a title or something of a video makes me... Once again, it was a vague title with no context. So... I could be completely wrong, but we'll see. Because whatever it was, I do have the context of, I think it's going to be episode 9 when it happens, maybe. So, like I said, maybe it happens in 8, and like Toy's like response is episode 9. Like I said, we'll have to wait and see. I believe I've covered everything in the episode. I feel like there might be something else I'm missing, but I do believe that's everything. So, I'm really interested to ultimately see where all this ends up taking us. Quite a lot kind of went down this episode, so these next steps forward, how this all plays. Oh, my God, I know what the other thing was I was missing. Lee. So, Lee went to talk to the wife of one of the victims, and he found out, wait, Bill came by here like a week ago? It's like, yeah, he figured that, he said like, right, they were here, and he took a look around the place. That's where the watch was. Because I was about to say, like, it never crossed my mind. Like, I figured I knew that was part of the setup, but it never crossed my mind of like, how did you get the watch? It's like, well, we already knew like Chow and Bill were already setting him up. Well, Chow, Bill, and Lee Young were already setting Zing up, but it's like, it never crossed my mind. I think we did see that. I think we saw when Bill was here and he got the watch. Like I said, it's been a couple of days, so I think I completely forgot. But it's like, yeah, I'm fairly sure that was in the show and I just completely forgot about it. I'm about to say, even if we didn't get to see it on screen, it makes sense that he would take it because Atoy and Patterson wouldn't have taken anything. Like, Atoy did what she did and left. Like, they disposed of the body, sure, but she wouldn't have taken, like, she's not the trinket person, you know? So she does what she does, and that's kind of the only satisfaction she needs. She doesn't really need a trinket. Where Bill came here because he needed, you know, something else to, because once again, the justification for the murders is like, like whoever it was is a Chinese person getting revenge on these people who hurt other Chinese people. But by throwing on the watch, it's like, oh, this person stole, and this actually directly connects them to the businessman's murder. So, you know, with Lee asking all those questions, which now he's like, I see what's what. It's like Bill just happens to be here a week ago and not let anyone know that that's what he's up to. Lee also doesn't know about, oh, Bill and the rest of the squad is cleaning up a crime scene. What the hell they do with those bodies? We'll probably not know. That finally marks everything, I believe, in the episode. But like I said, that's a lot. It's a lot to keep in mind as we go forward, because it's like, where is this all going to end up taking us? Only 3 episodes left in this season. I'm so excited to see what happens next and how the rest of the season plays out. But really, that's all I wanted to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.